13 years ago, I read 10 simple words that changed my life. In a hole in the ground, there lived a hobbit. Before then, I wasn't a reader. I didn't know what kind of magic that could be held in books. But those 10 words, starting there, led me on countless adventures, through pages, through chapters, and entire worlds, and they turned me into the reader that I am today. Of course, the book that I'm talking about is The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. I know I'm not alone when I say that this is the book that started my love of reading. In fact, I'd be fairly confident to say that The Hobbit may be one of the most commonly cited first loves of readers everywhere. So today I want to talk about why that is. Why is it that The Hobbit seems to be the book, one of the books that sparks the reading bug for so many people? Why did it capture my 12-year-old self's heart 13 years ago? And why does this still capture the hearts of new readers today? One of the biggest reasons I think The Hobbit continues to grab new readers is its accessibility. It's short, it's simple, and it's very readable. At only 95,000 words roughly or 350 pages depending on your edition, it's the perfect size for someone who's just wanting to step into novels for the first time or who want to get back into novels. It's something that feels like a real adventure, but it's not so long that it feels intimidating. And here's the key. The Hobbit is accessible not because it's childish, but because it's clear, it's concise, and it's timelessly written. Tolkien's prose, it's easy to follow, yet it's rich with imagination, making it enjoyable for both children and adults alike. For a kid, it's a fun adventure story. And for an adult, it's a story that contains deeper themes of courage and greed and what it means to leave the safety of home. It's one of those rare books that can capture the hearts of children and adults alike. So that's the first reason. The second is its immersion and its originality. When Tolkien wrote The Hobbit in the 1930s, there was nothing like it. He essentially created an entire new kind of storytelling, one that didn't just take place in a fantasy world, but was built from the ground up inside of one. Before Tolkien came around, most fantasy was portal fantasy. It was characters leaving one world to visit another. But Middle Earth, it was the world. There was no portal, there was no bridge to reality. It just existed. And the results of that was magical. You have elves, dwarves, dragons, goblins, all these things which aren't extra to the world, they are the world. It's no exaggeration to say that Tolkien invented the modern fantasy genre. Every fantasy book that came after owes a little bit of something to J.R.R. Tolkien. And for new readers, especially young ones, this kind of world building that he has done in his books is mesmerizing. You open the first page and suddenly you're there. And of course, many people have tried to copy this sort of world building since and have created these high fantasy worlds that are just as intricate and awe-inspiring. However, it's hard to argue that anybody has created such a low barrier to entry into such worlds as Tolkien has with The Hobbit. I think of series such as A Song of Ice and Fire by George R. R. Martin, or Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time, or even Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Archive. Like, these are big worlds that rival Middle Earth in their scope and their detail, but they have such a high barrier to entry that new readers they aren't able to overcome their complexities or the lengths of the books, and they aren't inclined to invest all that time into doing it. But The Hobbit, it combines these rich, detailed world buildings with accessibility, allowing readers to not worry and become immersed in the story itself. The third reason I think The Hobbit endures is because its story is universally human. Even though it's set in a completely different world, the themes that are present are ones we can all recognize. Comfort versus adventure, fear versus courage, greed versus generosity. There's these warring themes, these themes that we all know and can see in ourselves that are present in the story. It's the simple hero's journey in its purest form. A simple hobbit, Bilbo Baggins, is whisked away from his cozy life into danger and wonder. It's about stepping out of your comfort zone and discovering who you really are, and realizing that even the smallest person can make a difference. There's something deeply comforting and inspiring about that. It's a story that can speak to both 12-year-olds and 60-year-olds alike. It's universally and multi generational truth. And again, many stories have imitated this, and some have done it very well. But there is nothing comparable, in the fantasy genre at least, that combines these themes with such simplicity, such magic, and such depth as The Hobbit does. And finally, I would say I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that The Hobbit at least owes some of its staying power to its very famous older brother, The Lord of the Rings. Now, Lord of the Rings is Tolkien's magnum opus, for sure, and it's often in conversation, at least partly, as one of the greatest literary achievements of all time. But it's long and it's complex, and it can be dense, and it can be intimidating for new readers, even if they want to read it. The Hobbit, on the other hand, is like Middle Earth's front door. It's cozy, it's inviting, and it's filled with the same magic as Lord of the Rings, just a lot easier to step into. For many of us, The Hobbit was our way into Middle Earth. We fell in love with the characters of Bilbo and Gandalf and the dwarves, and once that door was open, the curiosity just naturally led us deeper into Tolkien's world. Some of us, we wanted to read Lord of the Rings, but we felt intimidated by it, so we said, let's read The Hobbit. The Hobbit was the next best thing, and it led us into Middle Earth. So even though The Lord of the Rings often gets the spotlight, it's The Hobbit that first draws us in. While many of us included saw The Lord of the Rings as the beast that we wanted to conquer, The Hobbit was sort of our training ground for it. And that's not to say at all that The Hobbit should be thought of any less than The Lord of the Rings. It's an excellent book that stands on its own, and it's good without The Lord of the Rings shadow over it. And it deserves its place among the great stories of the Western canon. I truly believe that it does. So there's no denying the impact The Hobbit has had on readers across generations, and it continues to inspire new readers every day. And I think that's a true testament to its timelessness. I think it will be a book that lives on for centuries, for millennia even, if the world is around for that long. And it deserves its place, like I said, among the greatest stories ever told. Those 10 words at the start of The Hobbit are what sparked my reading journey, but for you, they could be totally different. And so read what excites you, find what excites you. It's that spark of excitement that you need to search for that makes you want to turn the next page. And I urge you to find those words that spark your love for reading. Find them, grab a hold of them, let them whisk you away on great adventures. Your life will be far greater for it, and you will have a lifetime of adventures and wonder and fun. Thanks for watching.